You think your head runs your life. You're wrong. Your heart does most of the driving, and your emotions are the steering wheel. If you don't learn to read the road signs inside yourself, you'll keep crashing into the same walls dressed in different clothes. That's the hard truth, and the beginning of power. This video isn't about being soft or manipulative. It's about getting sharp where it counts, inside. So here's the first challenge. Be brutally honest with me right now. Do your emotions control you more than you control them? Say it out loud. If the answer stings, good. We'll turn that sting into fuel. Emotional intelligence isn't a buzzword. It's the operating system for everything you actually care about. You can memorize facts, learn processes, and climb a ladder. But without EI, you'll trip on people, sabotage deals, and run out of steam when the road gets rough. IQ gets you hired. EI gets you respected, trusted, followed, and remembered. Think of emotional intelligence as the muscle that turns thoughts into steady action. If Napoleon Hill taught us to master our mind, EI is how you master the mind's feelings, the powerful currents under every decision. First, let's clear the fog. Emotions are not enemies. They are data. They are short, sharp messages from your inner system pointing to needs, values, threats, or opportunities. Fear tells you where something matters. Anger draws boundaries. Joy highlights what fuels you. Shame points at unresolved expectations. The mistake most people make is confusing the intensity of a signal with its truth. Big feeling does not equal truth. Your task is to learn the language of those signals so you can translate them into useful moves. So what does mastery look like in practice? It starts with self-awareness, the ability to notice what you feel before the feeling turns into a reaction. Most people discover their emotions at the end of the sentence, after they've exploded, after they've scrolled into a spiral, after they've said the words they regret. That's reactive living. We want the opposite, a pause that creates space. The pause is tiny, 2 breaths, a label, a thought, but it's the hinge between impulse and choice. You want more choices. Here's a fast drill you can do now. Label the feeling. Say to yourself, I am feeling blank. Fill the blank with one word. Frustrated, jealous, worried, elated. Naming an emotion reduces its intensity. It turns wild energy into information. Scientists call this affect labeling, and you don't need their permission to use it. Try it the next time you feel something strong, in a meeting, in a chat, when your chest tightens. Label it. Watch it shrink. Then ask, what is this feeling telling me right now? Next, get curious about triggers. Emotions don't appear out of thin air. They follow triggers, and triggers are patterns you can spot. Is it a tone of voice that makes you shut down? A phrase from your boss that always ignites you? A memory that sneaks in when you're tired? Map those triggers. You don't have to fix them immediately. You just need to know where the minds are buried. Awareness gives you advantage. Let's talk about state management, the ability to change how you feel in service of what you want. This is not about faking it. It's about choosing the state that matches the required move. If you need calm focus, you can't show up wired on adrenaline. If you need presence with someone who trusts you, you can't be distracted by your own loop of thoughts. Techniques are simple: breath patterns, grounding sensations, quick movement, and reframing. Reframing is powerful. Take the raw story your mind is telling and give it a revised headline. Instead of, "This is a disaster," try, "This is data I can use." It doesn't erase feeling, it channels it. There's also a deeper engine, your internal narrative, the story you run on repeat. Earl Nightingale said it bluntly, we become what we think about. Your narrative wires emotions. If your story says, I'm not good enough, it primes jealousy, avoidance, and self-sabotage. Rewrite the small scripts. Start with micro affirmations that are honest, not hollow. I am learning to handle this. I can pause and choose. I will act, not react. Small lines spoken consistently rebuild the wiring over time. Now, let's make it concrete with one practical routine you can adopt tonight. For 5 minutes before bed, open a blank note and do 3 things. 1. List the dominant emotion you felt most that day and name it. 2. Write down what triggered it. 3. Write one small action you could take next time that will serve you. That's it. This isn't journaling poetry, it's tactical reconnaissance on yourself. Do this for a week, and you'll start to see patterns. Patterns are the source code for change. Here's something most people ignore. Emotions are contagious. Your mood is an influence tool whether you want it to be or not. If you bring tension into a room, you'll tighten other people. If you bring calm focus, others will follow. That's why leaders who understand EI create culture by managing not only their own states, but the emotional climate around them. This is where charisma becomes a practice, not an accident. Dale Carnegie taught the power of attention and sincere interest in others. EI is the modern internal way to deliver that power reliably. Then there's regulation, the discipline of returning yourself from a raw state to a constructive state. Regulation is not suppression, it's redirecting. When anger peaks, channel it into clear boundaries and energy for problem solving, not into blame. When fear rises, translate it into cautious curiosity and a test, not paralysis. The skill here is to turn emotion into an ally that informs action. Finally for today, remember this. Emotional intelligence is not a fixed trait, it's a skill, you can grow it. Like any muscle, it gets stronger with targeted practice, fatigue, and recovery. It takes discipline and experiments. It will feel awkward at first because you're rewiring old survival habits. Keep going. The payoff is huge. Less drama, more clarity, deeper relationships, better decisions, and a version of you who moves through life with intentionality. Before you go, I want action, not just nodding along. Leave a comment right now. Describe the last time an emotion ruined a plan for you. Be specific. What happened? What did you feel? And what did you do? Don't sanitize it. Honesty powers growth. And answer this. Which emotion seems to hijack your worst moments? Fear, anger, shame, or something else? Tell me the exact last time it decided for you. Write it down. Post it. I'll read it. We'll use it to test what comes next. Part 2. Stop thinking emotional intelligence is just being nice. It's not softness, it's steel wrapped in awareness. In the first part, you started noticing your emotions. In this part, you're going to build the second pillar, self-awareness so sharp you can feel your inner weather shift before the first drop falls. This is where you stop being a passenger and start driving. Ready? Let's go. Imagine your emotions as dashboard lights in a high-performance car. Most people drive blind, only reacting when the engine smokes. You're going to drive like a pro. That means spotting signals early and adjusting in real time. The skill is to watch yourself without judging yourself. Awareness without judgment is power. If you can observe your internal state with curiosity instead of criticism, you'll gain a second of choice before every reaction. That second is the difference between snapping and responding, between losing a deal and winning trust. Here's a simple but radical exercise. Check in with yourself every hour. One deep breath, close your eyes, ask, what am I feeling right now? Where is it in my body? Don't try to fix it, just locate it. Is it tension in your jaw? A tightness in your chest? A buzz in your stomach? This body scan grounds you in reality. Emotions live in the body first, words later. By feeling first, you intercept them before they hijack your mouth or your hands. Understand that emotions are signals, not commands. A surge of jealousy is just an alarm, value threatened. A spike of irritation means boundary crossed. Instead of acting from the alarm, investigate the cause. Ask, What is the value under this feeling? This approach takes you from being a victim of your moods to being a detective of your patterns. It's self-leadership at its core. Let's bust another myth. Emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing negative feelings, it's about converting them. Anger can become clarity and boundary setting. Anxiety can become preparation. Sadness can become reflection and empathy. When you look at a so-called negative emotion, ask yourself, how can this serve me? That's a power question. Use it often. Napoleon Hill called emotions the raw materials of power. You're just learning to forge them. Your next practice is the pause, name, reframe sequence. Pause when you feel a trigger. Name the emotion with one word, reframe it with a constructive angle. For example, I feel anxious. This means I care. Caring means I'll prepare better. Or I feel angry. This means I need a clearer boundary. Boundaries protect my energy. This simple process moves you from reaction to intention in 3 steps. Another high leverage habit, write emotional snapshots. At the end of each day, jot down 3 key emotional moments. Just bullet points. What happened, what you felt, what you did. Over weeks, you'll see a map of your internal world. Patterns will leap out. You'll find your high-risk triggers and your strongest states. Then you can plan around them, not stumble into them. Let's talk about the power of the pause in social settings. Emotional intelligence grows in relationships, not in isolation. The pause buys you credibility. When someone throws a harsh comment, don't fire back instantly. Breathe, even smile slightly, and say nothing for 2 seconds. This tiny gap changes the energy of the exchange. The other person expects a reflex. Instead, you show presence. That presence makes people trust you. Dale Carnegie would call it the art of making the other person feel important, but it starts with self-command. Self-awareness also includes knowing your emotional fuel mix. What activities charge you? What drain you? What people boost you? What people deplete you? Track it. Treat your energy like money. Would you hand cash to someone who constantly wastes it? Don't hand your emotional energy to situations that only drain without return. Choose where you invest your emotional capital. Now, let's touch on neuroscience, but keep it human. Your amygdala, the threat detector in your brain, fires first. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational planner, catches up later. Emotional intelligence is about shortening the gap between the first alarm and the second thought. The more you practice self-awareness, the quicker you recruit your higher brain. Over time, the alarms still go off, but you become faster at choosing your response. Earl Nightingale spoke about, "We become what we think about." Take it further. We become how we habitually feel. If your baseline state is tense, you'll act tense. If your baseline state is calm focus, you'll act with authority. So self-awareness isn't just noticing storms, it's cultivating a climate. Build rituals to return to calm focus, breath work, a short walk, a quick stretch, a mantra, whatever keeps your nervous system steady. Here's a direct challenge for you. Over the next week, pick one daily situation where you normally react automatically. Maybe traffic, emails, a person who irritates you. Before the situation, rehearse your state. Visualize it. When it happens, pause, name, reframe. Do it 3 times. Watch what changes. You'll feel the first real proof that you can govern your inner state even when the outside world pokes you. Another practical tactic is to keep a trigger journal at work or home. Each time you feel a strong emotion, write down 3 things. 1. What happened? 2. What you felt. 3. What you needed but didn't express. This uncovers the needs under emotions. Meeting needs directly often dissolves the emotional charge. For instance, a wave of resentment might signal, "I need recognition." Knowing this, you can ask for feedback rather than simmer in silence. Finally, remember this. The goal of self-awareness is freedom. Freedom from autopilot, freedom from inherited scripts, freedom to choose how you show up. The first victory is inside. When you can look at your own fear or anger with clarity instead of panic, you've already changed the game. This isn't abstract. It's practical leadership over the only territory you truly own, your own state. Before we go on, I want you to act. Drop a comment below. Describe one pattern you've noticed about your emotions. Maybe a trigger. Maybe a repeated state you want to change. What is it? When does it show up? And what would you like to do differently? Be real. This isn't therapy. It's training. And answer this. If you could master just one emotion for the next month, anger, fear, jealousy, shame, anything, which one would you choose and why? Write your answer and share it. It's your first public commitment to building emotional intelligence. Part 3. You've learned to notice. You've learned to pause. Now it's time to harness, to convert emotion into momentum. This part is about tools that turn raw feeling into relentless, useful force. If Part 1 gave you the map and Part 2 taught you how to read it, Part 3 shows you how to drive hard and fast without losing control. Ready to stop getting swept and start directing the current? Good. Let's train. First rule of transformation: don't fight the emotion, redirect its energy. Imagine emotion as water in a river. You can dam it, drown in it, or channel it into a turbine that powers your work. Anger channeled becomes boundary and speed. Anxiety channeled becomes preparation and vigilance. Sadness channeled becomes depth and connection. The skill is to convert intensity into structure. Structure is the bridge between feeling and action. Start with a practical toolkit you can use in real time. Tool 1. Micro actions. Whenever emotion spikes, choose a tiny physical action that matches the intent you want. If you feel frustration that wants to explode, take 5 purposeful deep breaths, stand up, and write the single next step on a sticky note. If you're flooded by anxiety, do a 60-second box breathing set and name 3 things you can control in that moment. These micro actions are short circuiters. They reduce overwhelm and give you a next move. Tool 2. The energy reframing script. Prepare 3 sentences that reframe your dominant negative emotions into actionable prompts. Examples: I'm angry. I will set a boundary clearly and calmly. I'm anxious. I will make one small, testable plan. I'm jealous. I will list 3 things I'm proud of in my life right now. Keep these scripts on your phone. Say them out loud when needed. Repetition builds neural shortcuts. Soon the script becomes the reflex. Tool 3. Ritual resets. When you feel your baseline wobbling, have a short ritual that recenters you. It can be a 1-minute walk, a short stretch sequence, a song you play once to shift state, a mantra you repeat, or a sensory anchor like pressing 2 fingers together and breathing. Rituals are powerful because they create predictable, repeatable transitions. Leaders use them before high-stakes moments to bring steadiness. You can too. Now, let's talk about the powerhouse behind emotional mastery, your inner dialogue. That tape you play is either coaching you forward or keeping you stuck. Most inner dialogue is blueprinted from past criticism, parents, teachers, bosses. If your inner voice is a critic, it will always find reasons to freeze you. Rewire it into a coach. The coach doesn't flatter, it asks sharp questions and issues clear tasks. What is the smallest useful step you can take right now? What outcome do you want from this emotion? Replace "I can't" with "What if I could try one small thing?" This shift keeps you honest and actionable rather than paralyzed by perfect. Use the technique of contradiction rehearsal. When a negative story rises, "I'm not enough," "They'll reject me," "I always fail," deliberately state the opposite and produce evidence. Say, "I am capable," and list 2 real examples from the last year. This isn't fake positivity, it's recalibration. Napoleon Hill taught that thought is seed. You're planting counter seeds against the weeds. Over time, the balance of evidence shifts, and your inner ecosystem becomes more hospitable to bold moves. Next, train your stress response with exposure and recovery. Emotional resilience is like fitness. You need stress, but you must recover. Deliberately expose yourself to small doses of discomfort. Speak up in a low-stakes meeting. Ask for feedback. Pick a conversation you normally avoid. Then recover immediately with a ritual. The stress teaches your nervous system to tolerate intensity. The recovery teaches it to return to baseline. Do this weekly. The cumulative effect is a nervous system that faces pressure without collapsing. Let's get tactical with conflict. Conflict is an emotional crucible. It can corrupt or refine you. Use the curiosity first frame in conflict. Instead of making accusations, ask for context. Help me understand what you meant when you said X. People diffuse when they're heard. Empathy doesn't mean agreement, it means clarity. Once understood, state your perspective as a problem to solve together, not a score to settle. This approach preserves dignity and opens solutions. Leaders who master conflict don't win arguments, they win relationships. Emotional regulation also needs boundary architecture. Boundaries are practical, not punitive. They are agreements with yourself and others about what you will accept and what you won't. If certain conversations sap you, set a boundary. I'll discuss this when we've had time to cool down. If certain people pattern drain you, limit time and reserve more energy for those who reciprocate. Boundaries protect your capacity to act from a place of quality rather than depletion. Now, a powerful habit, the pre-mortem on emotion. Before a big event, a pitch, a performance review, a crucial talk, imagine the emotional traps that could derail you. Write them down, then script responses. If the boss interrupts and you feel dismissed, plan, "I will ask for 60 seconds to finish my point." If nerves hit during the pitch, plan a breath or a brief anchor phrase. This rehearsal reduces surprise and boosts control. It's like planning for contingencies in a project, but for the interior weather. Another advanced move is empathy engineering. Empathy is not just feeling for another, it's designing interactions that invite trust. Start conversations by stating intent. "I want to hear your view because I need to understand the whole picture." Ask open questions and mirror back what you heard. Use small affirmations. "That makes sense. I see why you'd feel that." This doesn't mean you give up your position, it means you build bridges to influence. Influence without empathy looks like manipulation. With empathy, it becomes leadership. A note on moral courage. Emotional intelligence is sometimes misunderstood as politeness, but true EI requires the guts to speak truth with care. It's calling out a problem directly, not tiptoeing around it with passive aggression. It's owning your mistakes publicly and asking for the same from others. Courage combined with empathy creates a trust currency that pays dividends in work and life. Finally, integrate progress into identity. Don't only practice tools, make a small public commitment that binds you. Tell one person you respect what you're working on. Public commitments increase follow-through.
Or write a short pledge in a note and set a reminder to review it weekly. Identity change happens when you repeatedly act in a new way until the old scripts lose their voice. Before you leave this section, I want you to take 2 actions right now. Pick one micro action you will use for emotional spikes and commit to doing one exposure exercise this week. A small, uncomfortable conversation or a public attempt where the stakes are low but meaningful. Then put both in a note with the date. Post a comment below telling me what micro action you chose and what exposure you will do. Be specific. Real examples matter. And answer this. What has emotion helped you achieve in the past when you used it well? And what has it cost you when it ruled you? Share the last time it did each. Write it down, post it, and own the change.
Part 4. If you want influence, if you want to be seen as someone who gets results and gets people moving, you must master the social side of emotions. This isn't charisma theater. It's surgical empathy. People follow those who read the room and care enough to understand it. You've trained your inside, now train the space between you and others. This part is about turning emotional intelligence into social power. Listening, trust, influence, conflict navigation, and leadership that feels human. Start with listening, real listening. Most people listen to reply. You listen to understand. There's a world of difference. When you listen to reply, you collect ammunition for your argument. When you listen to understand, you collect currency, trust. Practice active presence. That means eye contact that's steady but not staring, body language that aligns with the message, and verbal mirrors that show you heard. So what I'm hearing is, it seems like you felt dismissed when that happened. Help me understand more about. These small phrases make people feel seen. Feeling seen is the psychological soil where trust grows. Remember, nonverbal signals carry most of the message. Your face, tone, posture, and space tell stories faster than your words. If your words say, "I'm open," but your body is folded, eyes darting, chest tight, nobody believes you. Align your signals. Use relaxed breathing, open posture, and a calm voice to invite openness. If you want someone to be vulnerable, you must first show them that you can hold vulnerability without reacting. That's the paradox of influence. Show steadiness, and others will reveal their truth. Empathy is a skill, not an accident. It's composed of curiosity and reflection. Start conversations with a clear motive. I want to hear your view so we can solve this. Then ask one open question and stay quiet long enough for a real answer. Silence is a tool. People fill it, and what they fill it with is often the real thing. When you reflect back not only the content, but the feeling, it sounds like you felt dismissed when that happened. You escalate connection. That reflection doesn't mean you agree. It means you understand. Understanding opens the door to influence. Trust builds on consistency. If you promise something, do it. If you disclose a weakness, follow with competence. Trust is emotional and rational combined. People feel you, and then they test if you're reliable. Small, predictable actions, showing up on time, delivering what you said, keeping confidences, create a track record. Track records become reputations. Reputations become leverage. Use your emotional clarity to make promises you can keep, and then keep them. Influence without manipulation is ethical. Influence is about presenting your position in ways that invite the other person to see how it meets their needs. Start from their perspective. Ask, what problem are you trying to solve? Frame your idea as a bridge between their need and your solution. Use because. The brain loves cause.
It accepts explanations even when shallow. Say, I suggest this because it protects our timeline and gives the team space to do quality work. You're not tricking anyone, you're connecting dots. Dale Carnegie argued that people like to be heard and appreciated. Emotional intelligence is the method to do that with precision and authenticity. Conflict will come. It is unavoidable when people care. Your job is to convert conflict into clarity and alignment, rather than letting it calcify into resentment. Begin conflicts with curiosity and constraint. Curiosity, ask questions to understand. Constraint, limit the scope of the fight to a solvable piece. Avoid all or nothing language. Use when, I felt, statements rather than you did statements. For example, when the deadline changed without notice, I felt blindsided. I need a heads up in the future so I can adjust. This surfaces the emotion without making the other person defensive. People usually want to fix things if they know what's broken.
Boundary work in relationships and teams is a relational muscle. Boundaries are not punishments, they're agreements that protect mutual respect and energy. If someone repeatedly crosses your time, state the boundary. I can't answer work messages after 8 p.m. If something's urgent, call. Then be consistent. When you set boundaries with calmness and compassion, others learn how to treat you. When you waffle, they test limits. Leadership is partly boundary clarity. Let's discuss influence in groups. In teams, emotional temperature determines productivity more than process does. A tense team produces guarded work. A team with high emotional safety experiments, fails, learns, and accelerates. You create emotional safety through normalized vulnerability and predictable response. Invite short check-ins where each person states one thing they're worried about and one thing they're proud of. Model the behavior by admitting a small failure and what you learned. Normalize the language of emotion in service of learning. This is not softness, it's optimization. Persuasion is not a monologue, it's choreography. Use stories. Stories encode emotional truth in a way logic alone cannot. A succinct human story about a problem and its outcome connects the audience to the desired action. When you combine data with one vivid story, you create both the rational and emotional reasons to move. Napoleon Hill and the classic authors knew emotion fuels belief. The story becomes the vehicle for belief. Use it ethically. One more advanced technique, the empathy pause. Before you respond in a heated exchange, mentally rehearse a one-sentence empathy line and a one-sentence boundary or request. For example, I hear that you're frustrated about the timeline. I want to fix this. Can we agree on a new deadline and checkpoints? Then be consistent. When you set boundaries with calmness and compassion, others learn how to treat you. When you set boundaries with calmness and compassion, others learn how to treat you. When you set boundaries with calmness and compassion, others learn how to treat you with clarity and firmness. When you waffle, they test limits. Leadership is partly boundary clarity. Let's discuss influence in groups. In teams, emotional temperature determines productivity more than process does. A tense team produces guarded work. A team with high emotional safety experiments, fails, learns, and accelerates. You create emotional safety through normalized vulnerability and predictable response. Invite short check-ins where each person states one thing they're worried about and one thing they're proud of. Model the behavior by admitting a small failure and what you learned. Normalize the language of emotion in service of learning. This is not softness, it's optimization. Persuasion is not a monologue, it's choreography. Use stories. Stories encode emotional truth in a way logic alone cannot. A succinct human story about a problem and its outcome connects the audience to the desired action. When you combine data with one vivid story, you create both the rational and emotional reasons to move. Napoleon Hill and the classic authors knew emotion fuels belief. The story becomes the vehicle for belief. Use it ethically. One more advanced technique, the empathy pause. Before you respond in a heated exchange, mentally rehearse a one-sentence empathy line and a one-sentence boundary or request. For example, I hear that you're frustrated about the timeline. I want to fix this. Can we agree on a new deadline and checkpoints? This pause lets you hold the other's feeling and steer towards solution at the same time. It's the two-step of emotional leadership. Leadership itself is an emotional craft. Leaders shape the emotional norms of their teams by how they respond under pressure. Do you panic? People panic. Do you stay calm and curious? People follow. Train yourself to be the first to be steady. That doesn't mean hiding stress. It means managing it so others can do their work. Make emotional competence a visible priority. Praise people not only for outcomes, but for how they handled the emotional work of collaboration. Who stayed calm? Who welcomed feedback? Who fixed a problem humbly? Now, practice. Run a listening lab this week. Choose a conversation where you normally interrupt or redirect, with a partner, colleague, friend. Your rules. Ask one open question. Stay silent until they fully answer. Reflect back the feeling and content, then ask a clarifying question. No advice unless asked. Record how their energy changes. Record how it changes you. This is high-return practice. Post the result in a note and review it after a week. A final word on influence and ethics. Emotional intelligence without ethical grounding becomes a tool for manipulation. Keep your moral compass in view. Use EI to help, to solve, to align, not to deceive. When your intent is to serve mutual gain, your influence compounds into real leadership and deep relationships. Before you move on, I want you to do two things and tell me in the comments. First, pick one relationship or team where you will run the listening lab. Name the person or the team and describe the situation briefly. Second, tell me one boundary you will practice this week and how you will enforce it calmly. Be specific: when, how, and what you will say. And answer this question. Recall a time when someone listened to you and it changed the outcome. What did they do that made you trust them? Share that memory. Write it down and post it. Practice builds influence. This is where everything meets. The inside work, the social skill, the daily practice, and becomes the kind of life that doesn't just feel better, it performs better. If you've followed parts 1 through 4, you've learned to notice, to pause, to channel, to listen, and to lead with presence. Now we integrate that into your identity, your habits, and the systems you live by so emotional intelligence doesn't stay a skill you use sometimes, but becomes how you operate. This is the blueprint for long-term growth, resilience, and real influence. Start by deciding who you want to be when things are hard. Not the Instagram highlight reel you post, but the person you are at 2 a.m. after a failure. The one who answers a tough message. The one who leads when the team falters. Emotional intelligence is quietly built in those hours. Define that identity in one crisp sentence. I am the kind of person who... Keep it manageable.
I am the kind of person who pauses and chooses before reacting. Or, I am the kind of leader who hears the hard truth and acts. That sentence becomes a North Star. Repeat it when you rehearse for challenging moments. Identity precedes behavior. Act like the person you want to be, and your brain will adapt. Habits are how identity sticks. Don't scatter your practice across 1,000 tiny rituals. Choose a few anchors and make them sacred. Here are anchors that compound fast. A morning check-in of 2 minutes to set your emotional intention for the day. A midday pause to do a body scan and release tension. An evening 5-minute reconnaissance where you list one win and one learning about your emotional responses. These are not fluffy routines. They're maintenance for your nervous system and software updates for your mind. Keep them short and consistent. Energy management is crucial and too often ignored. Emotional work costs fuel. If you're running on low sleep, crappy food, and constant stimulation, your capacity for EI drops. Prioritize sleep, steady movement, and micro breaks. Think of your energy like a battery. You can't expect peak performance on half charge. Schedule recovery as religiously as you schedule meetings. Champions of emotional leadership are masters of replenishment. Another core, create a practice of feedback loops. Ask for blunt, kind feedback about how you show up emotionally. You'll get 2 types: content feedback, what you said or did, and process feedback, how you felt and how that affected others. Both matter. Make feedback cycles short and specific. What did I do that helped you? What did I do that made it harder? Listen without defending. You either learn or you repeat. That's the choice. Build rituals for recalibration when you derail. You will derail, perfectly normal. The question is, what's your recovery script? Have a preset sequence: pause, own, repair, plan. If you snapped at someone, pause and breathe, own the misstep quickly and clearly, ask what they need to move forward, and plan a corrective behavior. Repairing trust is fast when you are transparent and consistent. Repairing slowly is the price you pay for pride. Design your environment to support your emotional architecture. Who you spend time with matters more than you think. Habits and baseline moods are contagious. Surround yourself with people who do the work, who have the courage to face emotion, who value responsibility and growth. That doesn't mean you abandon people who struggle. It means you choose who gets most of your time and set boundaries with the rest. Your circle shapes your baseline emotional climate. Keep sharpening your skills with targeted training. Read with purpose, not distraction. When you read a passage from Napoleon Hill or Earl Nightingale, pull one sentence that you can test in life this week. Practice generating evidence for small claims about yourself. If you say, "I'm more composed now," write 2 moments that prove it. Small evidences accumulate into conviction. Practice public speaking, conflict simulations, and leadership labs. Emotional intelligence grows in repeated, measured exposure to real stakes. Make curiosity your default. Curiosity dissolves rigidity. When you're curious about your own reactions, others' motives, and system-level patterns, you learn faster. Curiosity also cools defensive heat. Replace "they're wrong" with "what's driving that?" Replace "I must be right" with "what's the useful angle here?" Curiosity keeps your brain flexible and your relationships repairable. Now, scale kindness and accountability together. Too often people treat EI as being nice or being soft, but the highest form of care is holding people to standards while loving them through the process. Hold your team to commitments and be the first to model the emotional work required. Give feedback that is direct and kind. Praise the method, not just the outcome. This creates cultures where people feel safe to risk and to learn. Plan for long arcs.
Emotional maturity isn't a hack, it's a trajectory. Set quarterly checkpoints for your EI growth. One skill to sharpen each quarter, maybe listening in Q1, conflict navigation in Q2, resilience drills in Q3, empathy practices in Q4. At each checkpoint, measure with 3 data points: a journal of emotional snapshots, 1 third-party feedback, and a behavior you track. How many times you paused in triggers? How many conflicts were resolved constructively? Data removes fuzzy progress and turns development into accountable practice. Integrate moral clarity into your emotional skill set. Emotional intelligence without ethics becomes manipulation. Define your principles: honesty, service, responsibility, courage. Use EI to enact those principles, not to hide from them. When you lead with principles, your emotional moves have direction. People feel that integrity and follow. Now, a direct challenge for the rest of this month. Pick 3 integration tasks and commit them publicly in the comments. Task 1, a daily 2-minute morning intention practice. Task 2, 1 weekly exposure, a small conversation or action that scares you slightly. Task 3, a weekly feedback check with someone you trust. Put dates on them. Concrete commitments turn good ideas into real change. Before you post, answer one gripping question. Not a hypothetical, but personal. What emotional rule have you inherited that no longer serves you? From family, culture, past jobs, and what single specific step will you take in the next 7 days to rewrite that rule? Be brutal and honest. The more specific the step, the more likely you'll do it. Write your 3 integration tasks and answer that question in the comments now. This is your public pledge. I'll read it. Others will read it. Commit out loud and watch your nervous system align to the new behavior. If this video helped, subscribe and like.